Good morning everyone, Mushroom Meyer is back, and today we're going to make barbecue veggie kebabs with brown rice. So there is a lot of steps in this recipe. I'm gonna go ahead and just get started, but again, as always, don't forget to wash your hands and get all your stuff ready and have your recipe here with you. I have my right under my cutting board, so I'm gonna look through it as I make all of my food. So yeah, there is a lot to go through for this recipe. The first thing I do with this one is that I'm gonna look at the ingredients to see what it is specifically asking me to do. So the way that you are going to prepare your produce today, it's pretty much all written down on the ingredient list rather than the instruction. So let's go ahead and start with that. So our ingredients is calling for a corn, and it is saying sliced in 4 chunks. So that means that we do have to chop our corn. And then for our mushroom, it says whole. So that means we're gonna leave our mushroom whole like this. And then for our tomatoes, it also said whole. So we're gonna leave it whole. And our jalapeno peppers, our sweet pepper also says whole. So that means that whatever they form, shape they come in, we're gonna leave it like that. And then our next one is red onion, and that one we're gonna cut in half and section. So pretty much all you really have to chop today is your corn and your red onion. And then my other ingredients is 1 cup of Korean barbecue marinade sauce. So that one I've already made it ahead of time right here, and you can find that recipe on the same page like you would find this recipe, the barbecue veggie kebabs. So don't forget to check out our website if you want to take a look at both of the recipe and specifically for the Korean barbecue marinade. So I had that made ahead of time, it's ready to go. And then I also need 2 cups of cooked brown rice, which I also have that ready as well. And so we'll get into those in a little bit. So when you make skewer, when you're gonna do some grilling, it's really important how you chop your vegetables, because it might cook really differently if you chop them a certain way. So the first thing I actually want to know is that with our ingredients, of course, our recipe are made to, for you to switch things around. So if you don't like corn and you want a different produce that is also a really similar size to corn, you can always base that off of our recipe and cut it at the size that we are going to cut the corn. And if you have anything that is similar to like a tomato, where if you do cut it up and it's gonna drip and things are gonna fall out of it, then you do want to leave it whole like the tomato. So those are actually some really good tips if you are going to switch around some of the ingredients. Cool. So with our corn, we're gonna slice it into 4 chunks. Very important to note as well is that because we are gonna put it on the skewer, even if you think that you want like a really big chunk of corn and you're just gonna cut it in half, it would actually be really hard for the skewer to skewer it, because it has a really rough core. So you do want to chop it into at least 4 chunks or smaller if you can. So I'm gonna show you just how to chop it in 1 chunk, the first chunk that I'm gonna do. Adult, I do need you to take over this part because it is, we're gonna use a real knife and it is a little tough to cut through. So what I do is I measure out the size that I want. So you see that piece right there? That's how big I want my chunk of corn to be. I'm gonna slice in and just sort of go around in a circle like that. And once I feel like I'm completely went in a circle, I'm just gonna slowly sort of saw it, and you're gonna need some help with it to go through. So I'm gonna give it a little push as well. And then I'm gonna turn it around again and then give it a little push again. So you heard that break? That means that it's going through the core. A little more, and there you go. So that's a nice chunk of corn, and that's the size that you want, and you just keep doing that until you get all of the 4 or 5 chunks that you need. So I'm gonna set that aside right here. And then for our onion, we're gonna chop off the root right here. And we're gonna section it off. So the first thing we're gonna do is cut it in half. Again, anything that is round, you wanna start off with cutting it in half. And another tip actually is take a look at all of your fruits and veggies that are whole and see which one is the biggest size. So for example, my tomatoes are definitely gonna be the biggest one on the skewer. I want to make my chunk of corn and onion to be a similar size, at least in terms of like the width, right? So that when I put it on the grill or on the skewer or on the or if I barbecue it, sorry, it will get to all of the vegetables, because if they are all smaller than tomatoes, then the tomatoes is going to be the only one who's going to get all of the grill. So let's measure everything else based off of the tomato. So seeing how big that is, I might want to just cut this in half like that, so that it will be around the same size and it will get to the onion as well. So that is also how I'm cutting my onion, and I think those are pretty good. So we're gonna set those aside onto our cutting board, and let's also let's skewer up our produce. So I think that's actually our next step. Yep, using 4 metal skewers, skewer the marinated vegetable. So what happened after you finish chopping all of that and you have all of your whole produce that are ready to go, you're just gonna throw it into a large bowl, and you're also gonna mix it in with your marinade and let that sit for 30 minutes so that the marinade soaks up in the vegetable. So did that part already. Now we're here, our vegetables are all marinated here, and let's skewer it up. Okay, so again, think about how it's gonna sit together. So you kind of want all of this similar size to be together. And if you want to be fun and you want to be colorful, you can mix up around the color. Actually, I might leave the corn. Maybe that's another tip. I'm gonna leave the corn at the end so that it's also less work to push it all the way down. Okay, so as you can see, my mushroom is probably one of the smallest piece of produce here. So I want to have as much width as I can out. Rather than sticking in this way where it's flat, you want to have as much of the mushroom out of the skewer. So here's more onion, and if your onion falls into pieces because it is layered and it pieces falls out, just stick them at a different point, and then that looks good. Look at that. I'm gonna turn this on. And we can go ahead and put it here. So you're gonna let it grill for 5 minutes on one side and then turn it around every 5 minutes or when it browns out. So first I'm gonna use my hand, but once it's on the grill, you're gonna have to use a tong, because these metal skewers they get very, very hot and you don't want to touch it. Okay, put this to the side. Alright, and as we wait for that, if you need more marinade, you can also make more marinade as you wait for your skewers to grill. Or if you just need to add more ginger into your marinade, you can do that as well. That's actually what I'm going to do, because I like a lot of ginger, and I want to show you how to just mince the ginger, because we want to mince our ginger when we put it in our marinade. So this is how I do it. I cut them into flat pieces like that, put them all together, and then sort of do a matchsticks like that. All right, and our skewers are grilling up. You can hear that. And now that they're sticks, I'm gonna basically just cube them. Now there are so many different ways to do this. Some ways might be a little harder than others. One way that my mom actually, she doesn't mince her ginger. One way that she sort of like make them into small pieces is that she uses the back end of a knife. So you can actually use a plastic knife or the butter knife that we always do and just sort of bang the ginger so that it just mushed up, but it will still break apart because it's just basically a lot of string. It feels like a lot of string together. So once they're in tiny little cubes like that, I chop them up more so that it's even smaller. Chop, 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 chop. Okay. And then I throw that into my marinade. Okay. So always keep your eyes on the grill. Even if it's not 5 minutes yet, you just want to make sure that it's heating up right. Okay. And we're going to mix that up. So if you're going to spend some time outside, you want to do barbecue over the weekend, you want to grill something, and you're figuring out how you can cook some veggies as you barbecue, this is a really, really great way to do that. It's just stick them on into a skewer and throw it on the grill. Super easy, super simple, very, very good marinade sauce. It smells really good right now. Okay, so as you can see, because they're all different size and they're sort of not stick together, it's a little hard for me to turn it. So that's actually a tip for myself too, is that you want to push all of your produce really tight together so that if I try to turn it from the tomato, everything will turn together. But right now I try to turn it from the tomato, but only a little bit of it is turning. So you want to mush them all together as much as you can. And look at that, it's already cooking. Yeah, ooh, okay, see, I don't want to do that, okay. Yeah, looks good. Okay, I'm gonna let that cook, and I do have a plate that is ready already so that I can show you what happens next. So that's how my plate looks like. You can just serve it on a plate, have your brown rice ready here, and then stick your skewer on top, and you can serve it like that. Let's add a little bit of our marinade to our brown rice to give it some flavor. So just maybe like a tablespoon or so. Or 2, maybe. And let's mix that up. So mix our brown rice up with that, so the flavor goes all around. So if you want to eat your brown rice and then just take out a piece of vegetable and eat it on the side, you can also do that as well. Another way that you can also do this, if you don't want to have the skewers on your plate like this, is you can, let's do that. Just push everything off. So that's a little hard. I'm minding my hand for the corn, but everything else you can just slide it off like that. Yum, yum, yum. And if you feel like some of these chunks are a little bit too big, you can also do that and just slide it off into a cutting mat or a cutting board and cut these into smaller chunks. Ooh. There you go. And then throw it back onto your plate. So that is pretty much it. I'm gonna let that keep on cooking. Let's try this out. I'm actually, I want to try the brown rice, and I'm gonna have a little bit of this onion, and I want a piece of mushroom. I really want to try that mushroom. Okay, let's try this out. Oh, it's falling apart. You're gonna have to get your hands dirty on this one. You can wash your hands afterwards. That is so good. That is so good. It smells so good. It tastes so good. Again, if you're gonna spend some time outside and you wanna put some veggies on the grill, this is a really easy way to do it. So that is all I have for today. Thank you again so much for joining me. Again, don't forget to check out our website if you want to look at other recipes, learn more about Food Literacy Center, and also just don't forget to check out your local farmers market and source your food from local farmers. So thank you again for joining me, and I hope you have a watermelon wonderful day. See you next time.